I got to tell you today, super excited because I'm talking to my main man, Tom Schippers, aka Tomsch from the Netherlands. And he's got a really fascinating story that I think is going to resonate with so many of you listening. It's a really classic kind of example of weaving your way through the world of music production and then finding a space where you become addicted to music. You're absolutely dialed in, you're writing absolutely fantastic tracks, which you're going to hear a bit later in the show as well, getting your music released. So it's a fantastic journey. Can't wait to get stuck in, so let's crack on with it. Tom, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh no, my pleasure. I've been dying to get to talk to you as well because it's been a pretty explosive year from you for you, really. When we think about kind of how the progress and everything has been charted throughout the year, so it's really exciting. So just to kick us off, what's kind of going on in the world of music for you at the moment?
Um, well, it's a very weird time, of course, with the pandemic and everything. So I used to organize parties, but that is everything is not happening anymore. But actually, my production is going really well, on the other hand. So I really dived into that. I just rounded up my first year in FMM. And yeah, well, my first release is out, and I have two other labels signed. So yeah, it's going in the right direction. Just
Yeah,
like
it's
count, I have like 30 tracks on my hard drive now. So yeah,
30, did you
yeah,
say?
at least,
Wow.
at least, yeah.
So if we were to jump back 1 year, how many finished tracks are on your hard drive?
I think none, really.
None. Okay,
Yeah,
wow. So, yeah, I was kind of talking about it exploding. And the other thing that is really clear to me when I listen to your music is the level up in quality as well has been astonishing,
mm,
which of course goes to it stands to reason if you're not finishing any music and all of
yeah,
a sudden you've got 30 tracks finished, the needle's going to move. But it's jumped massively for you, to the point that you're obviously getting tracks out and on good quality labels as well, which is amazing. So how did it feel when you like got the first confirmation of a release?
Actually, I knew I was leveling up, but it was still a surprise to me. So I just sent it out. It was in the label affiliation, and it was an immediate hit. It was the first time I ever sent anything out to a label, and I was like, okay, we'll sign it. So that was really amazing and really motivating as well, because yeah, I've been the last year I've been super dedicated. Every morning and every evening I go to my computer and I start writing music, really within the FMM system. But it's yeah, you're getting the fruit of your labor, which is great. So yeah.
Sure. So I think that's a really interesting thing for us to talk about as we were discussing just before we kick the episode off and the fruits of your labor. As you mentioned, you've been putting on parties and things. I mean, you're a really experienced DJ. You've been super passionate about music for a long time now. Very
Yeah.
similar to me. The bug bit you when you were very young. You live just outside of Amsterdam, one of the dance music capitals of the world as well. So, can you talk us through a little bit of sort of your experience and what your journey was like prior to when you joined FMM?
Yeah. Well, I'm 43 by now, which is already feeling like an old age within the dance music industry, maybe. But I think I started DJing around 1997, 1998, something like that, because it just, yeah, I got bitten by that bug. I think it was Jeff Mills that really got me into this. He was playing with three turntables, bashing out tracks, and was like, what is happening? So I loved it. And I wanted to be a part of it. I think just like everybody in Amsterdam in that time, so because it really exploded. So I started DJing, but I always had a feeling I wanted more. I wanted to play the music, but I also wanted to make it. And I always regretted the fact that never at a young age I started to play an instrument, maybe play piano or guitar or something like that. So I always thought like, it's nice, but I'm never gonna make it. I'm never gonna see how this really works because I don't really play an instrument. So yeah, it was basically DJing for a long time, but I always picked up something, either started buying a groove box from Roland, or starting with Logic, or starting with Ableton, or starting with Native Instruments Machine, or, just buying stuff to be active with music and always trying to incorporate it within my DJ sets or doing something, but never really got to a point that I really had a track from A to B. I never really did it. I could make a loop like everybody else, but I never could stretch it to something decent. So yeah, kind of that, and that went on for a lot of years. And well, just recently, actually, when I turned 40, I told you in just when we before we started talking, I sent my son, which was 6 years old. I thought, well, he needs to be in music at a young age. So I sent him off to piano class. And that was also the part for me when I thought, oh, well, maybe I have to do it myself as well. I turned 40, but it's never too late. So let's just do it. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Moving your hands. I felt super clumsy. I thought, this is also not going to work. But I had a really good piano teacher, and he noticed that I wanted something different than to play typical piano music. So he started to teach me a little bit about music theory and about chords and how everything falls together, and especially also about composing music and how you could take the different elements and turn it into a track. And that was really opening up my eyes and also gave me confidence, like, okay, maybe I should go back to producing music and start to incorporate that. So yeah, that went on for about 2 years as well. I kept on playing the piano, even though I felt super clumsy. And it was really hard because I still can't really play keys, but I know a lot about music theory because I did that. And yeah, well, it was then FMM came along, and I thought, well, maybe that's nice. I thought finish more music. I'm never really finishing music, but maybe let's try. And yeah, well, the rest we just talked about. It really took off when I started to incorporate your system, because it just, yeah, it works for me. It's really good building a habit and going at it every day, being dedicated. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we should mention as well, I'm not sure if we did, that you write banging techno tunes as well, which I think is kind of interesting with the way that that segues and joins together with the music theory that you're doing on the piano side.
Yeah.
How has the stuff you've learned on the piano transferred into techno, and what kind of techno? Because it's one of those things now, right, where I'd love to just be able to say techno, but I think thanks to maybe it's Beatport's fault, there are like at least 50 types of techno. So if you can just speak to that a little bit, because I think that's a really interesting topic.
Well, obviously, you don't have to play the piano to make techno, but what it did really help me is to find chords and find melodies that fit together, because it's techno and it's kind of staccato and everything. It has to be banging for the dance floor, but it also has to be organic. And when you put the right elements together and they fall into place, when you know a bit of music theory, that really helped me out. Just trying a chord with a pad behind it and some melodies. And it's actually really easy because you don't have to know all kinds of complicated melodies, but just knowing a little bit about it really helped me.
Yeah, totally. And that's, I think what you spoke to there is really interesting as well, because it's actually way more simple, I think, than a lot of people think. That's one of the luxuries that we have in the world of dance music, and some of it gets really, really complicated. But when you learn how to break down these pieces of music and see what's happening, kind of when we like analyze tracks and we look at what's like an x-ray of the tune, for example, stuff that sounds really complicated often isn't that
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah.
And with a basic amount of music theory compared to the endless books and complications of it, you can go a really long way.
That's right, because you only have to know a chunk, but that really helps. And if you focus on that chunk and you know that really well, you can really, expand that totally. You can just take one key and just make a dozen tracks on it. It's really, yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, totally. So before you were doing the, I mean, the piano, it sounds like you started to feel a little bit more confident, I think
Yeah,
you were saying
definitely.
when you were doing
Definitely.
it. How were you feeling before you had any structure at all to writing your music?
Well, I felt it went in every direction, actually. So it was just playing around, and it was never really going anywhere. I didn't know how to put the structure together, and I didn't know how to expand it. You know, I could make a loop, and I also had in my head like, okay, this is the kind of music I like, so I would love to produce that, but I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to pick the right sounds, to make them fit together, to put them in an arrangement. So that really felt really complicated, and also felt like something, it's you know, you hear these great pieces of music, you think, it's nice, I can make a loop, but I can never stretch it into a full arrangement and get to that level. And that's where your system really comes in, because when you start to finish a track, and one of the things that really resonated with me is like, okay, treat it like the music is helping you forward. It's not meant to be that number one beatport hit, but it's just a moment in time, and it's helping you learn and progress within your journey. And that really helped me, like, okay, 70% of this is good enough. It's not going to be the beatport number one that I want. It's not going to be that super Ed Bayer hit that I want, but it's getting me closer to that goal, so I can eventually really do create that. And it's working, because I started to find the right sounds. I started to find the right things to put together. I'm getting closer. You know, it's every time I take a chunk, and I try to learn more about it. So, you know, a couple of months I really focused on building breaks, breakdowns, and build-ups. And I put tracks in the members event, and people were like, "Oh, you make such great build-ups and breakdowns." It's like, yeah, well, I have fun trying it out and fumbling about with it. So it was always really great, and that helps you to build your confidence as well. So having that group of people around you that are positive and reflect on your music, that's really nice, really. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting. I mean, you've said so many things I want to pick up on here. I want to try and steer this in a congruent manner, because I'm like, yo, that's interesting. That's interesting. So the first one is just the idea that you spent time on the breakdown, but you're learning this in the context of finishing music, not in the context of just these isolated little snippets of trying to develop a skill all on its own. Can you talk to that a little bit? Because obviously, having tried to write music for so long, what were you doing previously that wasn't working? Because you were, of course, trying to level up your skills, but not in the construct of having a reliable creative process that you could follow, and a system, and all of those things. So I'm really fascinated as to how you tried to level up your skills before, and what was happening effectively.
Um, well, it kind of all works together, and yeah, that's also something that you always say, that when you finish a track, you go through the whole process of it, and that makes you really learn a lot about putting it all together. And then when you move on to the next one, you know a little bit more. So what I try is to at least finish a track within a set amount of time. Now it's mostly about 2 weeks or one and a half a week, and I can finish a track up. And I do try to pick out an element that I want to learn more about. So yeah, that's been breakdowns and build-ups, which I still really like, because it just gives me energy and like, bah, love it. And other times it can be, I also focus a lot, so like on melody and chords and stuff like that, like how to fit them together. And as you go through that, what also helped is I started to find my sound a lot more. I started to find the right kind of sample packs and the right kind of people to follow online, that I think, these guys are really creating the stuff that I like. And then you see like a sample pack of them, and you think, yeah, this is the kick I need, or this is the preset in Serum that I need to get to that sound. So that really helps. Getting the right sounds is also essential. Yeah.
So that's kind of the where you're at now, and that's, we're charting this amazing journey of your tunes getting better and better. Previously, when you were trying to learn, but you were doing it without the system of actually being able to finish pieces of music,
Yeah.
where were you trying to learn, and what was happening then?
Mostly on YouTube, of course, or online, but also did a lot of courses online, and I learned a loads of it. The only problem is that they mostly focus on just getting the technical part right. So what you see a lot online tutorials, building a whole track. You hear a great track, and they break it completely down, and a guy takes you through all the steps of finishing the complete track, and you start mimicking things of that. So you learn how your DAW works, and you learn a lot about well, all the things. There's so many buttons and switches and things to learn, but it's not. It feels like you're mimicking something. It's not really you're making not making your own thing about it. So it's good to learn the technical part of it, to learn your DAW and stuff like that. But it's not pushing your creativity forward, and it's not making it your own track. And
Yeah,
also, a lot of the time when I followed those tutorials, like I started mimicking, and I was like, okay, this is like a course that is 2 hours, so it's great. I'm gonna follow along everything, and I'm gonna have this great track at the end. But always at about 60 or 75% when I was through that course, I think, now I'm kind of sick of it, like doing the same thing as he does, and it's not sounding the same as well.
totally.
Uh,
And that is a fascinating thing. So I've spoken to this, I think, on the podcast previously, but I think now for me, and I have to hold my hands up because I used to teach a course like that, quantized courses, and it had a load of built-in feedback. So I think it was considerably better than a lot of things, a lot of courses out there. But there are still courses with feedback that are great, and you learn a load of technical
yeah,
stuff, and it is brilliant. But for me, I think it's a very outdated method of teaching, and you summed it up perfectly because if you copy what someone else is doing, you're not being creative. You use the word mimicking, you're copying, which is
yeah,
faking it. And when you try to bring your own ideas in with different sounds and different patterns and different things that you create, they no longer follow the rigid workflow or the rigid walkthrough, sorry, that you've been given. And so it doesn't work anymore.
yeah,
And the more then normally what people try to do to fix that is go and watch another one of these courses or YouTube tutorials with a walkthrough, and
yeah,
you end up with 20 different ways of doing stuff. And now it's like mine's exploding. Which way's the best? None of them seem to be working. So yeah, I mean, I can totally feel that and understand how that could be happening. Um, the other thing that I wanted to talk to pick up on what you were saying about finishing lots of music and you're discovering your own sound and you're learning is the what's called the be do have model, which is what one of the things that runs through FMM, which is the idea of you build yourself to become a great producer and then the music follows. So a lot of people flip that around and they try to craft one piece of music into something awesome, but they're not learning and they're not growing and they're not discovering about themselves and what they like and all of those things. And the way that I always kind of speak about this is if Adam Bayer right now, who I know you love his tunes, if
yeah,
Adam Bayer was to come into your world and have your commitments and your day job and your family and your studio and your gear and all of that stuff and none of his existing contacts, let's say, it just Adam Bayer comes walking into your studio, how long would it take him to get back to where he is now? And the answer is not very long because he's developed himself into a kick-ass producer. And so it's this idea of if we work on ourselves, like if Richard Branson walks into any business or, any other top entrepreneur walks into any business, they're immediately going to transform its its fortunes and where it's going because of who they've become. So can you speak a little bit to that, because that's sort of the journey that you've been charting. What would you say is different about you and you as a producer and as a human being now to where you were just 12 months ago?
um, well, what really helped me on this was that I really built in that habit of writing music every day, and I do it every morning and I do it every evening, and nothing gets in between. And a big difference is that you really use that time, and I really thought that, learned that from you, is that that should be the time that you write and do nothing else. And I always try, and sometimes it's even just 20 minutes or even less, that anything in my DAW has changed and has gone. Maybe it's a new track in the project, or maybe it's a new sound in the project, or maybe there's a new MIDI edit. So that time is like the time when that happens. I need to make it happen, and that really helps. And also, I separated the learning time, so that's also something you always preach, and it really works. So what I do is, in the morning I write, in the evening I write a little bit as well, and then when that's done, I start to look at, okay, what do I want to learn more about? So can be anything, you know. Sometimes I always also just look around on YouTube, like, are there any YouTubers I like, and they have some new stuff out. It's nice to see, but I really separate it from the writing time, and that really helped. So always pushing it forward, never stopping a track, you know, or and also finishing it up always, you know. Just when I started, and it needs to get done, I need to drag it across the finish. So that's a big difference. Before that 12 months, it was always, you know, like starting off something, and then I got bored of it and I started a new one. So not finishing it up. So yeah, maybe I'm
So
repeating the things that you are always preaching, but
no, 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 it's very cool. I mean, it's one of the things that's coming across is you're very disciplined.
yeah,
So
definitely.
you know,
Yeah.
you're super disciplined with the times and things now. Is there anything else from a mindset perspective? So maybe things that you were thinking back then that were holding you back, and now you think something different, and that's sort of allowing you to channel your creativity as
Yeah,
opposed to being blocked.
yeah. Well, it's also a belief. So many people say to me like, "Ah, you're past 40, man. Come on, there's a lot of people that can do this a lot better." Or, "Yeah, you never started playing the piano at a young age, so why are you still trying?" And then when you start to finish tracks and you put them in the members event, you get great feedback. You're like, ah, nice. I think I can do this actually. So, and then you start moving forward and you get even greater feedback. And then at the end, you start to release a track. It's like, yeah, you know, I can do this. So it's really believing in yourself. That's one of the biggest takeaways I've taken from this year. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's fantastic. You just sort of talked to the members event and the community aspect of
Yeah.
things. I know obviously you've met Ruben recently, another
Yeah.
member of FMM in the studio. How has being around other music producers, like-minded people, impacted your journey?
A lot, a lot. I remember when I just started FMM, I was like, okay, nice, Keith. You have a nice system. I'm gonna watch all those videos, and I didn't really know what to do with the community because it was like, Facebook group, and so many messages come along. I had a hard time following it up, to be honest. It was so much information. But then when you get into that system of, okay, there's a members event coming up, I'm gonna push tracks in it, and it just, you know, gradually you flow into that community, and that really helps. And now it's really the biggest thing I think of FMM is that community. And yeah, I have some nice connections there. You know, you meet up with people that really like the same music, and yeah, so that's amazing. It's really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing as well coming into the community, like you say, because you've got it's new, it's something to learn, and anything can feel overwhelming. But one of the things I love is that there is that structure. There's always a structure for you to follow, and then you can start diving into the other things like the creative challenges and things like
Yeah.
that as and when you're ready to do it. So it's really interesting because everybody speaks to the community, which I love. Have you been a part of any other communities before for dance music?
No, not really. No, no, no. So, but I'll just stay with this one because it helps.
One of
No,
the other
not
things.
really, like not this one. And what I think is a good thing is, before I stepped in, I was like, okay, you charge quite an amount to step in, and I think it's actually pretty good because it literally makes you invested in it. And it also attracts people that are, because there's many systems, you know, you can, like a Netflix subscription, that for 10 euros you can, you know, watch all the tutorials you want. But this is something you really get invested in. It's like for a year, so take it seriously, take yourself seriously, invest in it, invest your time in it, invest some money in it. It's probably the best investment I did in my studio.
Oh
So
wow, man, that's awesome to hear. I love it. Yeah, I mean, we're deliberately, I say deliberately, what we do is very different compared to. I won't mention names, but there are lots of subscription sites out there where there's like, here's 10,000 videos for you to watch. Here's another 10,000 videos for you to
which
watch.
are some of them are great because if you focus and you're looking for something and you can find it over there, it's great. So those courses are also great. I like Sonic Academy. Producer Tech is also nice. They have good stuff out there. So let's not be mistaken on that. I don't want to bash any of the
Yeah.
other courses. So they're also great, but this system is different.
Yeah, and I think the real value is in what you were talking about. Now that you're finishing music, you know what tutorials you want to watch,
Yeah,
or you say, okay, I'm going to go and look for some inspiration here, and you know which ones are going to fit with what you're doing, rather than a kind of hit and hope strategy of just what I'll try that, then I'll move on to that, then I'll move on to that. You now know what works for Tom
yeah, that's right.
at the end of the day. So I'm also interested, what's life like outside of music for you? What is a
Pretty busy actually.
okay, cool. Yeah,
So
can you talk to that a little bit?
yeah, I have a 9-year-old son, so I spend a lot of time with him, of course. Um, I have a busy job. I'm a marketing manager at a theater, so I work 4 days on the office, but I need to go out at night, see a lot of plays and see a lot of stuff. So also on the weekends, and I want to spend time with my wife and my kids. So yeah, it's a busy life, definitely.
Totally. So what I'm kind of getting from talking to you, which has been really cool, is that you got a load of stuff on, you're busy, you had loads of experience in music, and you learned a whole bunch of stuff, and everything came together and aligned when you basically had a creative process to follow, and by following it, you have now gone to the stage where, like we said, you're now releasing music. You've got 30 tracks on your hard drive. So it seems like it's just having that path. You had everything
Yeah.
you needed, but just not the clarity and the path to follow to put it all together. Would that be right?
That's right. But one thing I'm forgetting, which is really important, is the accountability. So I know that when you have the members event coming up, I want to put 2 tracks in there. So I want to finish them up. Like I have a goal to work towards. So it's like something. Okay, it needs to be finished by that time, and that really helps me because I need that a little bit of pressure. It's nice. Otherwise, I just lean back and I get lazy.
Okay, so accountability and a system of kind of the two big
Yeah, yeah,
ticks in the
yeah.
box that have made the difference for you, which is super cool. Okay, great. So are there any other big lessons that you've picked up, like in the last 12 months, or just in your journey in general, that you think it would be of value to people to hear about?
Um, Well, Doctor, one of the most valuable lessons is just never give up, I guess. Just keep pushing forward and keep believing in it if you want to do it. I always wanted to do it, so I'm making it happen. But I just needed kind of something, to push me in the right direction. And another thing, yeah. Oh, I actually think that's the biggest one. Having the belief in yourself and finding the right sound. It kind of, yeah. You also have a podcast, and it finds you in a way. If you, yeah, if you just keep pushing forward, build your habit, be dedicated, you're gonna get there. It's gonna happen. Still have to
Totally.
believe. Yeah.
I love that message as well, because we're yet to find anybody that isn't able to create great music. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Everyone's got it in them, and I know that a lot of people, it's kind of one of the myths I think that's pushed out there, is that creativity is magic, like, or it's a talent. You either got it or you
Yeah.
don't, and
Yeah.
if you haven't got it, well, I'm sorry, you've got to give up, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And it just isn't. It isn't true. I mean, in teaching thousands and thousands of people, it just isn't true. So I love that message of, believe in yourself. it's tempting to think, oh well, other people can do it and I can't, if you haven't seen any progress. And I guess that's the beauty of your story as well, having DJ'd for 20 years and been working away at it. Sometimes it's just one thing, it's just one, like the flick of a light switch almost to align stuff for you, and then all of a sudden you've got the belief. So going forward now, because it's a very, a version of you that's full of belief, that's seeing great results, which is beautiful. What are your plans going forward now? Where do you want to take your music?
Yeah, well, I want to go to the bigger labels. I want to be heard. So I'm ready to take them on, really. So yeah, it's the last months, my first release was in August 10, I believe. And then I sent stuff out to another label, which was a great one. It's on Mavic Music. It's coming out in 2021, but it's confirmed. I was really happy with that. And then I have another EP, that was also, I sent out 2 tracks, and they were like, okay, we can release it. So it's like, okay, if it's going like this, then I want to take it a step further as well. I start to get the belief that I can really do it. So let's go, drum code.
Yeah, look, well, I can't see anything getting in your way as well, because you're doing so well and you're so dedicated, and that is one of the big things. I know that the accountability is amazing, and sometimes everyone, I can't think of a single professional across any discipline anywhere that doesn't have accountability. It's hugely important for all of us. But outside of that, you are incredibly disciplined in the way that you show up for your music. You've built your habit, you've become addicted to it, which is amazing. But so much of it is the person that you are and that you brought to the table, and you said, I am going to do this, as opposed to I'll be sort of a victim who will just let life pass me by. You said, no, I'm going to take this on. I'll do the piano, I'll invest in myself, I'll try new things. And I think, from working with you, which is an absolute pleasure, it's such a standout characteristic of you that I think should be highlighted as well.
Oh, thank you very much. That's a really nice compliment.
It's totally true, though. It's totally true. And you bring a load to the community as well. So thank you for that. You're always one of the many positive lights, but you come in, you help people, you lift other people up, which I think is absolutely amazing. So just to round things out, what's the name of that release coming up on Mavic? Let's make sure we get that out there.
Radiation.
Radiation. And
Yeah.
the track that came out in August is
It's going to be all right again. Which
It's
is
going to be all right again.
also
Okay.
a bit of a message of hope, with all these because especially the music that I'm making is having a hard time at the moment. I remember I organized a party that was supposed to happen on the 21st of March, and it's off the table. I postponed it to November, but it's not, I'm not sure if it's gonna happen. It was gonna be one of the first sit down techno parties, which is a bit against everything I believe in. But it was like, okay, let's play music within a proper place again. But yeah, it's complicated times.
Well, that's interestingly though. I absolutely love that idea of saying, look, we love music. We all want to get together and listen to music, and maybe it's not going to be as good as it was previously right now. So let's try this. I love the idea of this sit down techno party. We'll take what we can, and let's still share our passion for music. That's fantastic.
It was a hard decision because I was thinking, it's called dance music for a reason. You need to move on it. You can't sit down, especially not this high energy pounding techno track.
You can move around on a chair, my friend. Don't worry about that.
Just play the tunes on a big system. That gets, it's been a while.
I think that the thing is, though, as well, you're clearly, super passionate. You're brimming with enthusiasm to get back out and to put parties on and to DJ. So when that green light does come, I'm so excited to see what everyone's doing, because we are very fortunate to have a scene that's not only heavily family based. I mean, it's one of the nicest scenes I can imagine. All the times you go out to parties and you meet new people, it's not a kind of stuffy atmosphere in the underground. but also this passion is so strong to connect,
Yeah.
share the feeling of music. I mean, you'll know as a DJ, it's one of the greatest feelings to share your love of music with people and to make that connection. And you're gonna be able to play your own tunes out as well, which would be amazing. So that's going to explode, right? When the green light comes on, I think this everything is going to explode, and it's going to be such an exciting time.
Yeah, definitely. So look forward to it. I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, let's leave the session on that note. I just want to say a huge thank you as well for coming on the show and sharing your journey.
Thank you for having me, Keith. It was a pleasure.
Tom, absolute legend, mate. I'll catch up with you in the community very soon.
Thank you very much. See you around.